Growth is a double-edged sword. As you evolve spiritually, emotionally, or intellectually, the world around you often remains unchanged. The people who once fit seamlessly into your life may suddenly feel small, distant, or incompatible. Outgrowing everyone around you isn't a matter of arrogance. It's a natural byproduct of transformation. What once felt like connection now feels shallow, repetitive, or even stifling. Yet this process carries danger. Isolation, loneliness, and guilt can creep in when you realize that your growth creates invisible gaps between you and those you love. Friends, family, and colleagues may resist change, cling to old dynamics, or fail to recognize your evolution. Even well-meaning relationships can drain your energy if they no longer align with your path. Understanding the risks of outgrowing everyone around you isn't about fear, it's about awareness. By recognizing the signs early, you can navigate this transition consciously, protect your energy, and embrace solitude without regret. Growth may separate you, but it also prepares you for deeper, more authentic connections with yourself and with those who can truly meet you where you are. 1. You feel increasingly isolated. Spiritual and personal growth is a lonely path by nature. As you evolve, your interests, priorities, and energies shift in ways that may no longer align with the people who once surrounded you. The hobbies, conversations, and even values that once bonded you with friends or family may start to feel superficial, shallow, or irrelevant. Suddenly, you find yourself standing on the edge of a world you once knew, peering into a new space that feels unfamiliar to both you and those around you. This sense of isolation isn't a punishment. It's a signal that your inner world has expanded faster than your external world can keep up. The people around you may not be consciously rejecting you, but your vibration has subtly shifted. Your curiosity about depth, truth, or self-mastery may make casual chatter, gossip, or trivial pursuits feel exhausting or unfulfilling. While you once drew energy from socializing, now you realize that certain interactions leave you drained, weighed down by noise you can no longer absorb without discomfort. The paradox of this isolation is that it feels both painful and necessary. On one hand, the absence of familiar connections can create loneliness, triggering the natural human desire for validation and belonging. You may question yourself. Am I wrong for feeling different? Have I lost touch with everyone I care about? These questions are normal, and they reflect the tension between your evolving self and the life you used to inhabit. On the other hand, this very loneliness is a gift, a mirror reflecting your authentic growth. It forces you to confront who you truly are, independent of others' expectations or energies. You may also notice that as your growth accelerates, your tolerance for superficiality diminishes. Casual friendships that were once comfortable may now feel hollow. Conversations that revolve around drama, envy, or trivial pursuits can no longer hold your attention. You start seeking depth over quantity, and your presence becomes selective. Isolation in this sense is a natural filter, a way for your life to align with the people, experiences, and energies that truly resonate with your evolved self. This period of solitude also encourages introspection. Being alone is no longer something to fear. It becomes a space for reflection, integration, and self-discovery. You may find yourself spending hours thinking, reading, meditating, or engaging in creative pursuits that your former social circles would never understand. Each moment of solitude deepens your connection to yourself, sharpening your intuition and reinforcing the clarity that comes from inner alignment. The isolation becomes fertile ground for transformation, a place where your mind, heart, and spirit grow in ways that no external validation could ever cultivate. Another subtle challenge of outgrowing everyone around you is the sense of invisible comparison. People who remain in your previous circle may continue to live familiar patterns, unconsciously reminding you of what you have left behind. Watching them repeat old habits or engage in cycles of conflict can create a bittersweet mix of nostalgia and alienation. You realize that your growth has created a gap, one that cannot be bridged without compromise, and compromise would feel like a betrayal of your own evolution. This recognition is simultaneously liberating and lonely. You are no longer tethered to stagnation, yet the price is distance. Ultimately, feeling increasingly isolated is a sign of progression, not failure. It signals that your internal evolution is demanding external realignment. People will naturally drift away when your frequency changes, and this is neither wrong nor unnatural. The key is to embrace this isolation as a sacred space for cultivation, rather than a void to be feared. By learning to stand alone without resentment, you cultivate independence, resilience, and a deeper connection to the part of yourself that is unshakable, whole, and aligned with your truth. In the quiet moments of solitude, you begin to realize that the isolation is not emptiness, but a preparation, a refining process that ensures the people, experiences, and opportunities that enter your life next will truly resonate with your elevated state. Growth may separate you from the familiar, but it also positions you to experience authenticity, depth, and connection on a level few ever reach. 2. Old connections can become toxic. Growth isn't just about moving forward. It's about leaving behind what no longer serves you. As you evolve spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, some people in your life remain stagnant. They cling to familiar patterns, old grievances, and outdated ways of thinking, while your energy begins to shift in ways they neither understand nor support. This misalignment can transform once healthy relationships into sources of tension, frustration, or even subtle toxicity. The toxicity doesn't always arrive with overt hostility. Often it manifests as passive resistance, judgment, or envy. Friends who once celebrated your achievements may now minimize them or offer backhanded compliments. Family members might criticize your choices or insist you remain the same as before. Even casual acquaintances may subtly undermine your confidence or question your priorities. This resistance isn't always malicious. It's often rooted in their own fear, insecurity, or inability to evolve. Yet the effect is the same. It drains your energy, creates stress, and pulls you back toward old, limiting patterns. Envy is a particularly insidious form of toxicity. When your growth highlights what others have ignored or suppressed in themselves, their discomfort may turn into resentment. This can take the form of gossip, comparison, or even attempts to control your decisions. Suddenly, you find yourself navigating subtle power plays and emotional traps that never existed before. The people who once supported you may unintentionally resist your evolution simply because it forces them to confront their stagnation. It's important to recognize the difference between intentional harm and unconscious misalignment. Not every disagreement or critique is a sign of toxicity. Some relationships require temporary friction to foster growth. Challenging conversations can stretch your boundaries and deepen your understanding. Toxicity, however, is persistent and draining. It leaves you questioning yourself, saps your energy, and clouds your clarity. Your intuition often signals these dynamics before logic can fully process them. Pay attention to those subtle warnings. Boundaries become essential in these scenarios. Growth requires protection, and shielding yourself from toxic dynamics doesn't mean abandoning love or loyalty. It means valuing your evolution above the comfort of familiarity. Setting clear boundaries, limiting time, conversations, or emotional investment allows you to maintain your energy while still honoring the connection in whatever form it can healthily exist. Sometimes this means taking a step back. Other times it means letting go entirely. The courage to do so is a hallmark of spiritual and emotional maturity. Another challenge is recognizing your own role in perpetuating toxicity. Growth exposes unconscious attachments, expectations, or fears that you may project onto others. You might notice frustration or impatience arising when old friends don't catch up to your level, or disappointment when family members fail to understand your path. Awareness of your own reactions allows you to navigate these relationships with clarity, avoiding unnecessary conflict while protecting your peace. Ultimately, realizing that old connections can become toxic is not about blaming others. It's about reclaiming your power. It's a natural consequence of evolution. Your energy, priorities, and frequency are no longer compatible with people whose growth lags behind or moves in a different direction. Rather than forcing harmony, the mature response is discernment, choosing which relationships to nurture, which to distance yourself from, and which to release entirely. This discernment is liberating. Once you accept that some relationships cannot evolve alongside you, you stop investing energy in resistance, resentment, or attempts to fix others. Your focus shifts inward toward self-mastery, alignment, and the cultivation of new connections that resonate with your evolved state. By letting go of toxicity, you create space for authenticity, mutual support, and the kind of meaningful bonds that reflect your true frequency. In this way, old connections, once sources of comfort, reveal themselves as obstacles to growth. Recognizing and addressing this truth is a critical step in your journey. Toxicity is not your burden to carry. It's a signal that your evolution demands new boundaries, higher standards, and the courage to honor your own path, even if it means leaving familiar faces behind. 3. You struggle with guilt and responsibility. Outgrowing people is a natural part of evolution, yet it rarely comes without emotional friction. One of the most challenging internal battles during personal growth is grappling with guilt and the perceived responsibility for those left behind. As you expand your consciousness, refine your values, and raise your vibration, you may notice a subtle yet persistent tug of obligation, the sense that you should help others evolve or maintain your old connections, even when doing so hinders your own growth. Guilt often arises because growth highlights contrast. As your life takes on new meaning, clarity, and energy, you notice the ways others remain in patterns of stagnation, avoidance, or negativity. Your awareness exposes the disparity, and suddenly the pull of empathy becomes a double-edged sword. You remember shared histories, the support you've offered, and the promises you may have unconsciously carried. The mind whispers, if you leave them, you're abandoning them, even though, in reality, your evolution isn't about them. It's about your alignment. Responsibility compounds this guilt. Many spiritually or emotionally mature individuals have innate tendencies to nurture, guide, or uplift. You may feel compelled to help others transcend their limitations, believing it is your duty to carry them into growth alongside you. This creates an invisible weight. The more you evolve, the more apparent it becomes that you cannot and should not force another person's transformation. Trying to do so is not only futile, but can drain your energy and foster resentment. You begin to question, am I being selfish for stepping into my own path? Am I abandoning people who rely on me emotionally or spiritually? It's critical to understand that growth is a boundary-driven process. Every individual is responsible for their own evolution. Spiritual maturity involves realizing that your duty is to yourself first, your energy, clarity, and vibration. Carrying the burden of someone else's stagnation isn't noble. It's a misalignment with your own journey. When you accept this truth, the guilt becomes a signal rather than a chain. It reveals where compassion must be tempered with discernment. Guilt also emerges from societal and cultural conditioning. From a young age, many are taught that loyalty requires self-sacrifice, that relationships must be maintained at all costs, and that leaving others behind is inherently wrong. As you outgrow people who no longer resonate, these ingrained beliefs collide with your evolving sense of self. The mind interprets growth as betrayal or failure, even when it is the most authentic choice. Awareness of this cognitive distortion is essential. It allows you to distinguish genuine responsibility from conditioned guilt. Another layer of complexity is emotional attachment. Love, care, and memories create invisible ties that make distance feel like abandonment. You may find yourself lingering in conversations, revisiting old friendships, or suppressing your own needs to protect someone else's comfort. This often leads to stagnation, not for them, but for you. True compassion involves holding space for others without sacrificing your own evolution. It's not abandoning. It's respecting both your path and theirs. Overcoming these struggles requires deliberate inner work. Journaling, meditation, and reflection help clarify your intentions. Ask yourself, am I staying out of obligation or alignment? Am I extending energy because it serves their growth, or because I fear guilt? The answers illuminate whether the connection is healthy, or whether releasing it is an act of integrity. Ultimately, outgrowing others and confronting guilt is a rite of passage. It teaches that responsibility does not mean control, and compassion does not require sacrifice of self. By embracing this principle, you reclaim your energy, reinforce your boundaries, and align with your authentic path. Growth no longer carries the burden of guilt, but instead becomes a conscious choice to evolve without being weighed down by the expectations or stagnation of those who remain behind. Stepping forward in clarity and confidence, guilt transforms from a crippling force into a compass. It guides you toward discernment, reminding you that your highest responsibility is to yourself, and by honoring that, you indirectly inspire others to do the same. 4. The desire for depth replaces social comfort. Outgrowing people often brings with it a subtle yet profound shift in social preference. The ordinary becomes insufficient. Small talk, casual chatter, and surface-level interactions that once felt satisfying now feel hollow. Life, after all, is evolving around you. Your consciousness, awareness, and sense of purpose are expanding, and the casual comforts of the past no longer resonate. What once provided distraction or temporary connection now feels superficial and unfulfilling. This craving for depth manifests in multiple ways. You may notice yourself skimming social gatherings, feeling restless at casual conversations, or withdrawing from traditional social circles that thrive on gossip, trends, or idle chatter. It isn't arrogance or superiority. Rather, it is the natural alignment of your energy with what truly nourishes your spirit. Your inner life has grown more complex, and interactions must now reflect the richness of your inner world. Profound conversations, authentic exchanges, and meaningful connections become non-negotiable. You seek dialogue that challenges thought, encourages self-reflection, and resonates with shared values or aspirations. Questions about purpose, morality, consciousness, and personal growth take precedence over discussions about the weather, entertainment, or social media trends. Your mind craves substance, and your energy demands resonance. This shift often comes with tension. Friends, colleagues, and family members may fail to meet these new standards of depth. Their casual interactions, once sufficient, may now feel draining or irrelevant. You may feel isolated, not because you are disconnected, but because the frequency of your being no longer matches the energy of shallow exchanges. It is a natural filtering process, a necessary evolution to preserve your clarity, energy, and authenticity. The desire for depth also intersects with self-respect and boundaries. You begin to recognize that not every relationship is meant to last indefinitely, and not every conversation deserves your energy. But investing in superficial connections feels like a depletion rather than a gift. This discernment isn't about judgment. It's about energy management. By choosing conversations and relationships that align with your inner world, you honor your growth and maintain your integrity. Another important aspect is that this shift cultivates patience and appreciation for rarity. Deep connections are not abundant. They are precious. As your desire for authenticity intensifies, you learn to savor the quality of relationships rather than the quantity. A single meaningful conversation can be more rewarding than dozens of superficial interactions. This discernment strengthens your inner world, allowing you to focus on individuals who elevate your life rather than dilute it. Furthermore, the craving for depth encourages personal growth. You are naturally drawn to people who challenge you, inspire you, or align with your evolving purpose. In seeking these interactions, you cultivate your own understanding, insight, and wisdom. Solitude often becomes a companion, not a punishment, as it allows reflection and self-integration, essential components of meaningful connection. Ultimately, as social comfort fades, you begin to appreciate silence, presence, and authenticity over conformity and approval. The world may still value small talk and casual approval, but your inner life demands more. This evolution signals maturity, discernment, and the emergence of a higher consciousness. the realization that true connection arises from alignment, not convenience. Outgrowing social comfort is not a loss. It is a conscious choice toward richer, more resonant experiences. It represents a shift from passive social participation to active energy curation. By embracing depth over comfort, you prepare yourself for relationships and conversations that honor your authenticity and elevate your consciousness. In this space, interactions are no longer obligatory. They are intentional, transformative, and profoundly nourishing. 5. You must learn to embrace solitude without fear. Outgrowing everyone around you inevitably leads to moments of isolation. Relationships, friendships, and social structures that once provided comfort may no longer resonate with your evolving consciousness. Initially, this solitude can feel threatening, even painful. The human mind is wired to seek connection and belonging, so the absence of familiar energy often triggers fear, doubt, or longing. Yet, this stage is not a punishment. It is a necessary step for growth. Embracing solitude requires a profound shift in perception. Being alone does not equal being unloved, unworthy, or disconnected from life. Instead, solitude offers an unparalleled opportunity for reflection, self-mastery, and alignment. In the quiet, away from the noise of external expectations, you confront your authentic self, your fears, your desires, and your unfiltered identity. This is the crucible in which inner strength, clarity, and self-trust are forged. Many resist solitude because it exposes what they have been avoiding: internal dissonance, unresolved emotions, or the need for external validation. Outgrowing your old social circle amplifies this discomfort. You no longer have the same buffers or distractions to mask your inner world. And yet, leaning into this discomfort is precisely what cultivates resilience and emotional independence. Over time, solitude shifts from a perceived threat to a sanctuary, a space where you recharge, integrate experiences, and reconnect with your higher purpose. Solitude also recalibrates your energy. Constant social interaction can drain even the strongest individuals, particularly when the energy of others no longer aligns with your own. In isolation, your frequency stabilizes, your focus sharpens, and your intuition becomes clearer. You begin to hear the subtle whispers of your inner guidance, unclouded by external influence. Decisions once muddled by collective opinions or expectations now emerge with precision and authenticity. Moreover, learning to embrace solitude without fear strengthens your ability to form meaningful connections in the future. When you stop clinging to company for comfort or validation, you begin to attract relationships that resonate with your energy and values. Quality replaces quantity, and interactions become intentional rather than habitual. You engage with people not to fill a void, but because their presence complements your journey and adds depth to your life. There is also a spiritual dimension to this solitude. Outgrowing old connections aligns with the principle that evolution often requires separation. The universe orchestrates periods of aloneness to test patience, self-reliance, and alignment with higher purpose. By facing solitude without fear, you demonstrate readiness for the next stage of growth, the arrival of experiences, people, and opportunities that are truly in harmony with your evolving self. Finally, embracing solitude teaches the most profound lesson of all: that your fulfillment, peace, and identity are not dependent on others. your inner world becomes your home, and your sense of self unshakable. Fear gradually gives way to empowerment, anxiety to calm, and loneliness to a profound sense of presence. The solitude that once seemed threatening becomes a gift, a necessary catalyst for transformation, wisdom, and authentic living. In learning to embrace solitude without fear, you step into mastery over your own life. You release dependence on outdated social anchors and cultivate an inner reservoir of strength, clarity, and serenity. This stage signals not isolation, but ascension, a conscious choice to prioritize alignment, depth, and authenticity above comfort and conformity. The world may feel different now, and you may walk it alone at times, but solitude becomes your greatest teacher, and through it you find the power, wisdom, and clarity to thrive on your evolved path. Outgrowing the people and environments that once defined your world is not a failure or a flaw. It is an inevitable sign of growth. As your consciousness expands, your values, interests, and energy begin to shift, creating natural dissonance with those who remain stagnant or attached to the old ways of being. This process can feel lonely, uncomfortable, and even painful at times. You may experience isolation, guilt, or the pressure to maintain connections that no longer serve your evolution. But these challenges are not obstacles. They are necessary tests designed to refine your character, clarity, and resilience. Learning to embrace solitude without fear is the ultimate lesson of this journey. True growth requires independence, the ability to trust yourself, your intuition, and your path, regardless of who is present or absent in your life. Solitude becomes a sanctuary for reflection, alignment, and inner strength. It allows you to integrate your experiences, recharge your energy, and cultivate deeper awareness of your authentic self. In this space, you no longer seek validation or connection out of necessity. Instead, relationships become intentional, meaningful, and aligned with your evolved energy. Outgrowing others is not about rejecting people, but about honoring your own evolution. It is a call to prioritize authenticity over comfort, depth over superficiality, and alignment over familiarity. While the journey may feel isolating, it ultimately opens the door to freedom, self-mastery, and the capacity to attract connections that resonate with your higher self. The loneliness you may encounter is temporary. The clarity, strength, and wisdom you gain are permanent. Embracing this truth transforms the fear of outgrowing everyone into the power of ascending beyond what no longer serves you.